Hello, and welcome to Real Person Reviews. I'm Sam, and I'm a real person. And today I want to talk to you about Team Kirby Clash Deluxe for the Nintendo 3DS. A few things up front. Just that, basically all I gotta say here is that, I guess I guess I do have a few things. I have this super planned out. One thing is that I haven't written the review yet, so while when this video is out, there will be a written review you can check out before, after, or instead of this video review linked in the description below. At this point, I haven't actually done the written one, so if I miss some details or something, and like that could be the case, and it's going to be a little sloppy, I guess. But I really wanted to get this one out there because I felt like it was time. I feel like I'm ready, and so the written one might be a little better. Hopefully this one doesn't suffer too poorly from that. I've been playing it long enough, I should be okay. What was the other thing? I guess this is one I'm going to be recording stuff. Like, I don't really want to restart this. This is like a free-to-play thing, and it's like I would have to redo a lot of stuff if I restarted it. So you're probably just going to be seeing bits and pieces of footage from when I'm doing this. Hopefully that's okay, like from later in the game. Maybe have some kind of spoilers slightly, but there's not really a whole lot of story stuff happening, so there's that to consider as well. I don't have everything yet. Like there's a lot of stuff I just haven't gotten because it takes either a long time or it takes money, and I'm not going to pay money on a free-to-play game. So that's kind of where we are with that whole situation. But hopefully that none of that takes too much away from what I have to say about this, and I still think that it's worth my 2 cents, if nothing else. I think that's about everything to preface this, so let's get into the fucking... So Team Kirby Clash Deluxe is, I believe, actually a standalone version of a side game mode in a different Kirby game. I think it might have been in Triple Deluxe, or Planet Robobot, or something. Isn't one of them, I think, where... It's an expansion on that idea in a free-to-play model. It was released as part of this celebration thing. I think for, I don't know if it was for the anniversary of Kirby or if it was just a hype thing right then or what. It was one of 2 games announced, and it was the one game that, during this announcement, it was the one that came out right with the announcement for the 3DS. Basically, I guess what it is it's like a 4-player action RPG game. For the single-player stuff, at least, which is the thing you can do, you play as Kirby, and you have 3 NPC Kirbys to play with you. And each of you can pick from one of 4 classes. There is the Sword Hero, which can use a sword and has the ability to put out a shield, which can protect yourself and your teammates from incoming damage. There is the Hammer Lord, which is rather slow, but is able to do some massive damage with the hammer. There's the Beam Mage, which can use ranged attacks, and can even stop time with charged attacks. And then there is momentarily. And then there is the Dr. Healmore, which is basically the healer class, is able to heal up the team and deal some damage with a bit of range as well. And these 4 different characters can be used. You can have, any combination of them. You can have them all 4 of the same thing, or all 4 different things, 2 of one and 1 and 1, whatever. The combinations, you get the idea. Each of the characters all have their own little movesets, with different inputs to do different things. Usually they'll have some kind of charged attack by just holding the B button. They'll be able to jump and kind of fly a bit like Kirby can. It's basic Kirby mechanics going on there, except for the idea that you're stuck with the character. Rather than being able to inhale enemies and copy their abilities, you just have this set of abilities throughout the whole match. If you lose all your life meter when you're playing, you will go down, but then your teammates can revive you. If everyone goes down, then you lose. And there's a little bit of struggle there. Sometimes a few healing items might pop down during the match, so you can heal yourself during these fights. Again, I should go back to the movesets quick. Each character has their own set of moves based on like their items and abilities. And there's a little move list you can look up too, so you can see which moves you're going to do, and try to know which ones to use when and how. And basically, you go in and you select these different boss fights. Typically, just very large variants of existing Kirby enemies or bosses. And I think there might be some that are new to here, but I'm not entirely sure. I'm not familiar enough with the entire series to say for sure on that. They're also on a time limit, so you have to beat it within that time limit. Otherwise, if the time's up, then you lose if you haven't beaten the boss. Also, there's usually a point halfway through the boss fight where the boss will then more or less become enraged, and it'll then change up its attack patterns a bit more, become a little more aggressive. That's typically how most of it goes. The more you play, the more you unlock. You start unlocking more bosses, more stages, more difficult variants of each of these bosses. You also get materials when you do this. You can get things that are light fragments, water fragments, and fire fragments, which you can use to create different gear. And you can equip the gear out to the different characters. Each class has their own specific gear pieces and items that can up different stats on these characters. Playing through these matches will give you experience points, which will level up your characters, make them stronger, and just slowly increase the stats. And then increase the stats for all your characters. When you do it, you level up for yourself, and it's for all of your classes, and it's also for all of your own teammates as well. And you can outfit your different, customize the different characters in your party if you need, more specific things. Like you want this character to use this weapon, but you want this one of the same class to use a different weapon. You can kind of play around with that, I believe, too. There's options in there for you to play around with your setups as well. And the other thing is it runs on energy, or vigor as it's called in this game, because it's a free to play game. So it's one of those things where, you can play for a bit, but once you run out of vigor, which, depending on the battle you pick, it could take more or less vigor. Getting those, of course, it regenerates over time. And there are ways to refill it, like every time you level up, it refills your vigor. You can also, I think there's probably a way to purchase some more vigor as well. There are also things you can do to purchase extra time with... when you're in the battles and you're running out of time, time's up, you can extend it by a bit by putting in some stuff, and you can also buy some power-ups to bring along with you for temporarily increasing things like your XP, or making you stronger, or having healing potions in there. If all the characters go down, you can revive all the characters, of course, for getting all of the gear, also along with those materials, those different fragments, you also need this currency. Basically, all really based around these things called gem apples. You even need them to unlock certain stages as well. And gem apples are the game's currency, the freemium currency in the game, where you can just buy more gem apples. Some will regenerate over time. You can check in and get some more every 12 hours. On this apple tree. If you pay money in to get more gem apples after you buy so many, it'll actually level up your tree, and so you can get more every time you check in for free after that. They're kind of baked into doing everything. You pay gem apples to do other things. You're always just basically buying gem apples to allocate to all these different things that you want to do. Even getting those power-ups and everything, all goes into that. You can earn them also by completing these different quests. I think there's heroic quests, and I'm not sure what the other ones are called, if they're just those quests. But they're all on the quest log. A lot of them are benchmark quests, play X amount of battles, or hit X level or something. But there are also specific ones for each of these battles, things like, beat these battles under certain circumstances, like beat the battle with everyone in this character class, or beat the battle in under this amount of time, beat this battle and get this kind of medal, because there's a medal system. Of course, if you fail, you don't get anything, but lowest is bronze, and there's silver if you do it a bit better, there's gold if you do it even better, and the best you can get is a platinum. which usually it's all based around things like how fast you do the battle. I think it's typically just that. It's just if it takes you too long to do the battle, you're getting a worse medal. But if you do it really quickly, you can get a better medal for it. And you also get a different score, and your score is tracked for each of these as well. So there's that replayability going back to those to try and get better medals and scores and beat those missions. And there are multiple different areas. Oftentimes bosses repeated, some new bosses. There's a few things where you have to fight multiple bosses in a series. So there's all that going on. But mainly the game is based around this playing as these teams, trying to get the best team composition and equipment to try and take down your enemies and to do certain things in order to achieve all these different quests to do all of those. And there's also some online functionality where you can actually summon people from their games, I guess. Essentially just their character data, I believe, is what it does, and then they just work as AI characters and you play with them, but you can put them on your team, so you're kind of stuck with whatever you get. Every day, at least once, you can do it for free, where you can summon 3 people, and they'll be there for 3 battles, and so you can have a full team of actual players doing things, even though the other players' characters are done, they're controlled by the AI when you're playing. But you can also play multiplayer locally with your friends on this one. Unfortunately, I can't say much about that. I can only speculate that it's probably pretty nice for people who can get together and have the game and can play that with each other and all that, because it's a thing you'd be able to do with a free game. There's not a whole lot of limitations to getting it. But unfortunately, I didn't know anyone that had the game and a 3DS that I could play with, so I was unable to take advantage of that. And not being able to play with someone actually online, probably due to lag and some other things, that's kind of a shame, but that's just all I can say about the multiplayer, is just get that out of the way, that I can't really speak too much about it personally, as I wasn't able to try it. I think beyond that, there's not a whole lot else besides there's the ability to kind of change whatever your saying is for your character and change their pose. And then you can also enter passwords, which I don't think many passwords have been really released for this game yet, but they're supposed to give you some kind of nice little rewards and wherever those passwords are put up. I don't know where to follow to find them or anything, but they're there. And the game also has slight advertising for, hey, there's other Kirby games, you should look at those in the eShop. That's the thing also. And that's pretty much the game. You fight things, you level up, you get the stuff, you try to advance, and complete all the things. And I've done almost all of the quests that I can do. So I think I'm pretty well versed in it at this point. And, there's a lot of stuff to like about this one. It's got the nice Kirby aesthetic going for it, which is always nice, but an interesting twist on Kirby gameplay. It's still pretty fun and pretty simple, but it's one of those where you still have to be strategic about things. You have to figure out, okay, do I need more damage? Do I need to stop time? Do I need to keep my characters from dying? What is the goal? What am I trying to do? The replay value is pretty nice in those stages where it's okay, I'm going to try a bunch of different combinations. Be I'm going to get these guys here, I'm going to get these guys here, and what's going to be the best way so my characters don't go down in this fight, or so that I can beat this fight really quickly, or that I can, how do I beat it with how do I play in order to beat it with just these, all these characters in this one class. It's some interesting stuff to keep you coming back, and the scores and all that, so it's not just a case of you do it, it's done, and then you're grinding for a long time. And the period of things you can do in the beginning is actually a pretty decent length period of there's a lot of stuff to do, and it's really fun, and I feel you keep constantly unlocking things and doing stuff, and everything feels like it's kind of a positive gain to everything. And it can be pretty addictive and fun, especially for a free-to-play game. It's just free. You just check it out, and there's a lot of stuff to do for a decent amount of time in it. So it's definitely one that has the ability to hook you, and I kind of like this idea of having this fun RPG kind of spin on the Kirby gameplay, and this kind of thing I think is pretty interesting. It's just a very interesting Kirby game in general. But as much as I enjoy it, I do have some issues with it, the grindiness and the free-to-play stuff does come into play pretty harshly at a certain point. I was able to basically grind for a long time to try to get to the level cap. And I did a lot of interesting things along the way because I played that way. But once I got there, I mean, I'm there now, and there's not a lot for me to do now, other than just wait a long time to get more gem apples, to get more equipment, so I can even do some of the challenges, because some of those quests are based around having characters equipped with specific equipment, which means you have to kind of either wait, or you have to purchase those. I already had to wait a while to even unlock some of those stages with the gem apples and do more. And it feels like it's pushing me very hard to just buy gem apples so I can play more of the game. And that's a shame, because I was having a lot of fun with it, and now it feels almost just like, I'm checking in every, 12 hours, or maybe just once a day, depending on when the times are, when I remember to do it. And it's like, I don't even play it that much at this point, because there's not a lot for me to even really do. I'm not going to get any extra, I don't need any more fragments. I have them all maxed out, pretty much. I don't need any more experience points, because my level is capped. All the stuff I need takes gem apples, and all I have to do is sit here and wait for the gem apples to make it so I'm able to generate more of them. And I just hit this gigantic roadblock, and that's how they're going to get your money, I suppose. They want you to be hooked at that point. But fortunately, I think a lot of people will play this for a while, and then during the grindy phase, where there's still stuff they can do, but it's very repetitive for a while, I think you're going to lose a lot of people. And anyone who gets past that over the hump like I am, but still doesn't want to pay money, I think are probably going to fall off. And I don't know how much longer I'm even going to play it, but it is kind of a shame, and I wouldn't mind seeing a standalone, or maybe even whatever this came from, to see how that works without the free-to-play elements shoved into it, because they do take a little something away from the game. I do think they could have done maybe a better job doing that. I don't know, it's pretty simple as far as a lot of the stuff goes, so after a while of playing it, you kind of get it. Repeating the bosses feels a little lazy. There's not really a whole lot of story. There's not much else besides just those boss fights. And it does get a little bit tedious after a while. It's at least nice that there's a story and like an ending to it, which is something you don't get in many free-to-play games like this. But I do feel like maybe there could have been maybe some cool sections where you could find loot or do some adventuring and platforming stuff. And seeing this turned into a full-fledged game would be an interesting idea. But instead, it feels like it's a free-to-play thing to keep you occupied for a bit, and then make you want to pay money, and that's kind of an unfortunate side effect of this type of game. So maybe there could have been something done to remedy that a little better, an easier way to get gem apples. I don't know. It's more of a cool concept that could have used more fleshing out, and didn't. Even though it is a deluxe version of a thing they already had before, it doesn't really feel like this is a totally fleshed out concept yet. And that's a shame. So Team Kirby Clash Deluxe, it's a digital thing, I can't hold it up. But yeah, it's one where it's a free to play. Check it out. If you like Kirby, you want to see something interesting with Kirby mechanics, a nice little spin with that, that's cool. It's got the nice Kirby aesthetic. It's fun. And it's another free thing to play on your 3DS. It's there. It's hard to say don't try it. But don't go into it thinking you're going to get a ton out of it. After a while, it's going to get grindy. It's going to get repetitive. And then it's just going to be a gigantic roadblock unless you pay money. So have fun with it while it's fun. And then afterwards, once you hit that grindy part, or even the roadblock part, that's maybe when you should decide, is it worth coming back to anymore, or do you want to just move on to something else? And I figured that I'm probably close to moving on to something else, so I should talk about it. I wouldn't recommend spending any actual money on the game. I don't think that would make it more enjoyable. It would just make it so you could play it more like you should be able to. But the fun you can get out of it is worth getting that fun out of it for the first part. So, I mean, who knows? Maybe if enough people want it, we'll actually see a full-fledged actual game out of this for some kind of follow-up, rather than just, a free-to-play thing that's kind of there to make money, more than it is to be a celebration. Regardless of how well I think they held off on doing that for a while in the game anyways. Oh well. Those are my thoughts on Team Kirby Clash Deluxe. Did you play Team Kirby Clash? Which game was that from? And what did you think of the original Team Kirby Clash? What do you think of this one? Have you paid any money for it? And when and why? And then leave all that shit in the comments. That could be interesting to talk about this. But those are just my thoughts, and I figured it was about time to review this, because I've been sitting on it for how fucking long. I don't know what's so goddamn deluxe about it.